What's going on, football fans? It's me, J.R. Clark, back again with another Pound for Pound ATL. This one I can legitimately say, by viewer's choice. Y'all are the ones that chose what we are going to do tonight. That's why I always give out my Twitter handle and say, hey, give me a follow, because I'll throw periodically things out there on Twitter or even on our YouTube channel poll. But I put up a poll to see what y'all wanted to hear about, what y'all wanted to talk about, so to speak, this weekend. So I gave you a choice between bunch set schemes, like the schematic breakdowns of bunch sets and how we think we're going to use those more this year, or 53-man roster projection. And by overwhelming majority, y'all chose the 53-man roster projection. So that's what we're going to get into tonight. I'm going to give you my projection on who I think makes the 53-man roster ahead of the second preseason game. Okay? This is where I feel right now and how I think this is going to shake out. So, without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump into it. We're going to start, obviously, at the top with the most important position, which is the quarterbacks. Obviously, I think both quarterbacks are going to make it. And I say both quarterbacks because they're the only two that have been on the roster the whole time. Yes, you have a emergency quarterback in Felipe Franks, but he's also kind of transitioning into tight end. So I think that obviously right now you're going to have Mariota and you're going to have Desmond Ridder. I'll throw in the caveat that I think Mariota starts this year, that he's the one that starts the games. So I don't think that's going to be much of a shock or surprise to anybody. But unless Desmond just absolutely skyrockets his last two preseason games and Mariota falls on his face and or gets hurt. So I think it's Mariota's job to lose. So that one's pretty easy. No real controversy there. All right, let's get into the next group, which is the O-line. All right, this is one of the bigger groups, obviously, because you need a lot of O-linemen. So let's just go from left tackle on over. Left tackle, you got Jake Matthews, obviously, starter, just re-signed. Left guard, you have Elijah Wilkerson, who is the gentleman that's in the Bears outfit there in the picture. He has come in and pretty much taken over that left guard spot. And our turnstile of a buddy, Jalen Mayfield, has yet to be able to reclaim it, and I don't see him being able to reclaim it. In the center, I know they've been having a battle going back and forth. Unless something changes, I think it's going to be Matt Hennessy. So far, Drew Dahlman in the game against Detroit didn't really look all that great. So right now, I'm going to give it to Hennessy. Moving to right guard is obviously Chris Lindstrom. No real competition there for him. He's like him and Jake Matthews are the only two actual locks that Arthur Smith has even talked about. So right guard, obviously. Right tackle. We thought coming in that Jermaine Ifedi was actually going to push, but he's not been able to. So as it stands right now, it's Caleb McGarry. Caleb McGarry is your starting right tackle. Now, I have Jalen Mayfield obviously making it, Drew Dahlman making it, Cody Gossett making it as our backups, and Jermaine Ifedi making it as a backup. So the starters I have are the guys up on the front line. The backups, I think they got a lot invested in Jalen Mayfield, so I don't think he loses his job just yet. He may be off the roster come end of next season, but as of right now, I think he sticks on the roster this year. So, all right, keep this hype train on rolling. Don't want to keep y'all here forever, so to speak. Let's get right into the wide receiver group. All right, this is where it kind of starts to get interesting, right? Obviously, Drake London. Obviously, Brian Edwards. Obviously, Olamide Zaccheaus. Those guys are, I think, your actual, full-on locks. I have them only keeping 6 wide receivers. So the other three are Cordell Hodge, who has been making like name for himself, or like showing his consistency in in training camp. And then I have Damiere Byrd, who has shown his speed and his consistency in catching. I think he will be that, backup slot guy. A lot of these guys that we're talking about here is going to come down to what they provide on special teams. And then I have Frank Darby making it. And this is like where the last spot I was kind of torn between Auden Tate and Frank Darby and Geronimo Allison. Well, Auden Tate and Geronimo Allison haven't really been able to push their way up the depth chart. And Frank Darby, being a guy that the coaches drafted last year, has actually started to show some flashes of that ability. So I think he gets the nod and makes it on the 53-man roster. I don't know how many games he'll be active. I think your receiving core, as long as everybody stays healthy, is going to be Drake London, Brian Edwards, and Olamide Zaccheaus, with a little bit of Cordell Hodge and some Damiere Byrd mixed in, depending on what kind of schemes they're wanting to run that week, right? So that's what I have as far as the wide receivers go. Now let's get into the running back room. I only have them keeping 4 running backs. They may try to stash Huntley on the practice squad or something of that nature, but you're leading off with Cordell Patterson. We can debate on how much he's going to get used, but I think the core of your running back group is going to be Damian Williams, Tyler Algier, and Quadre Olison. Olison has some real good runs and was looking real decisive during the Detroit game. And I think if he keeps that up, I think he's almost a virtual lock to make the squad, because there's just not really a ton of competition in front of him. Like Tyler Algier, obviously, because he's the draft pick. Damon Williams has shown real well in camp and at the preseason game. His one run looked real nice. So I think that's your running back group this 2022. Now, you're going to notice something here in a second, and I'm going to get to it after I talk about this one. Next group is tight ends. Okay. We all know that Arthur Smith loves his tight ends. We don't have a pure just blocking tight end like we did last year with Lee Smith, but I don't think they're going to utilize it. So obviously Kyle Pitts is the focal point of the offense, even with, Drake London being here. I think they're going to feed Pitts quite a bit. And I think that Arthur Smith is pretty much going to get the band back together with Parker Hesse, Anthony Ferkser, and Mecole Pruitt. Like, he had all those guys up in Tennessee, and I think he's going to reunite them here to play second fiddle, depending on the situation, to Kyle Pitts. Now, I think Parker Hesse is in for a major uptick in role, because I actually think he's going to take the job, so to speak, of Keith Smith. Now, I could be wrong on that later on. We can get into that a little later, because technically speaking, I have 52 guys on my roster, because I was indecisive on whether I was going to keep Keith Smith or if I was going to have an extra lineman. To me, you can use Parker Hesse to do what Keith Smith gave you. The amount of snaps that Keith Smith gave you, and already through training camp, you're seeing Parker Hesse as lining up a lot at the fullback position. So, and being a lead blocker. So if he can consistently give you those kind of reps, I think it'd be redundant to have Keith Smith on the roster. So that's kind of where I laid there. But just know that, like I said, I have 53 or I have 52. So that 53rd could be a extra lineman or could be Keith Smith, possibly. All right, well, let's move to the defensive side of the ball, and let's go with starting off with a D-line. Obviously, Grady Jarrett in the middle, like he's the one that commands that D-line, in my opinion. And he's going to be flanked this year by Anthony Rush, number 94, and Taquan Graham, number 95. I think that's going to be your mainstays on the defensive line. Taquan Graham is really showing that he was worth well more than that 5th-round pick last year. Already looking just explosive, looking like he's carrying that momentum that he had towards the end of the season, carrying it into the new year. So I think my starting 3 there is obviously Grady Jarrett, Anthony Rush, and Taquan Graham. Now, we tried to bring in some more defensive tackles in Eddie Goldman and Vincent Taylor, as we have well documented. Goldman retired, Vincent Taylor ruptured his Achilles. So that leaves us real thin, especially with Marlon Davidson dealing with a shoulder injury, knee injury, got his knee scoped. I don't see Marlon Davidson making this roster. I really don't. Too many injury histories, not enough production, and not this coaching staff's guy, or this front office's guy. So we're still going to need some backup, and Jalen Dalton, formerly of the Bears and Saints, has showed well since we've signed him, and so has Timmy Horn, number 93. The undrafted free agent. A point that I have made more than once on different shows and different space chats and stuff like that is the fact that we had so many draft eligible players this past draft season that there were going to be some guys who fell through the cracks. Timmy Horn is one of those guys. He could have easily been a 5th, 6th round pick, 4th, 5th round pick in any other draft. But this past draft was so chock full of players that he just kind of got swept under. And I think he makes the 53-man roster. And there's always a undrafted guy who makes it. And I think this year it is Timmy Horn. All right. That takes care of the D-line. Let's keep on trucking to the outside linebackers. All right. These are the guys that are hunting quarterbacks, right? We brought in Lorenzo Carter to do just that. You got Adi Ogundeji from last year's 4th-round pick, 4th or 5th? 4th, I think. And then they're going to be bookended by the 2 rookies this year, Arnold Ebiketie and D'Angelo Malone, which both guys are already flashing quite a bit. D'Angelo Malone has been flashing in training camp, and you saw him converting that speed to power against Detroit, something that we noted from the Senior Bowl, and it's good to see that he's continued to do such a thing. And Ebiketie has shown that his ability to get into the backfield, cause pressure, create havoc, and so I'm really excited about what these 2 rookies bring. Lorenzo Carter and Adi Ogundeji are going to be your starters when we're in that package, that 4-2-5 type package. They're the ones that have been routinely bracketing Grady Jarrett and Anthony Rush, and I see that that's going to continue myself. And we're just going to hope that those 2 guys really get ramped up and start bringing some heat. That's what we need. All right. Linebackers. All right. I just absolutely love that picture of Rashaan Evans. That just really encapsulates the energy that we saw him bring against Detroit. He is going to be that energy bringer of the defense. You got Michael Walker to the number 3 there, who is going to be your signal caller. I think he was wearing the green dot on against Detroit, but definitely watching the practices, you can see that he is in charge of getting everybody lined up. So that's going to be your 2 starting linebackers. Now, I got Troy Anderson, obviously, because, he's the 2nd-round pick, athletic. I can't wait to see him in preseason. I want to see if he's able to really start translating some of that stuff. And then another undrafted guy, Nate Landman. He played real well against Detroit, and I think he's going to serve well as the spare linebacker, still learning, but special teams guy. Then yes, you do see in the back corner Deion Jones. I don't know, man. I put him on here mainly because right now he's still on the roster, and they've already said they're not going to cut him. So if they don't find a trade partner for him, then he's going to play a role. Like, he may be the third linebacker out there when they go to those 3 linebacker looks. But as of right now, I have Deion Jones on the roster still, even though I don't think he's squarely in their plans at all. And, the final 53 isn't always the final 53, right? So that's kind of where I landed on Deion Jones. Cornerbacks. All right. Obviously, A.J. Terrell, front and center. He's the man, the myth, the legend. On the other side of him, you got Casey Hayward, number 29. I think it's going to be an amazing pairing. It's going to give our secondary some strong looks and some strong options. Now, I got Isaiah Oliver as my third cornerback, as my nickel corner, because that's a very important role. And hopefully he'll be ready to go week 1, because that's my ideal secondary. But if he's not, the 2 guys that I got flanking him, Mike Ford and D. Alford, have been getting some strong looks at that nickel position. D. Alford as of recently, because he is playing really well, and I think he's going to, make the roster. The one person I'm just now thinking about that I forgot is Darren Hall. All right, so, real life edit, I am going to have Darren Hall over Mike Ford. Just solely off of Darren Hall's, being their guy, their draft pick last year, and Mike Ford not doing so hot on, against Detroit. He had more than 1 lapse, and then starting this week, D. Alford has been getting a run at nickel. So we're just going to replace Mike Ford there in the back with Darren Hall. You make a mistake, I make a mistake. Anyway, continuing on. All right, we got the safety group. Now, it was a toss-up between Dean Marlowe and Tez Tabor as far as the backup safety, but I went with Dean Marlowe. You could easily talk me into Tez Tabor, and I'd be like, yeah, sure, why not? Same thing on the Eric Harris side. They brought Eric Harris back because of veteran leadership, all that jazz. Like I said, you could easily talk me into Tez Tabor there, but sorry, got to get a drink. But I think the show is going to run through Richie Grant and Jalen Hawkins. It's time for the young guns to hit the field and see what you got. Okay, you spent a 2nd-round pick last year on Richie Grant and a 4th-round pick or so on Jalen Hawkins the previous year. So it's time to see what you got in those guys, right? They need to be front and center playing the safety positions, and I think they will be, and I think they'll fare just fine. I think that once the season goes on, you might get some bumps and bruises, but I think for the most part, those are going to be your starting safeties. And like I said, the backup safeties, you could convince me any combination of Eric Harris and Dean Marlowe or Tez Tabor. I would probably choose Tabor myself. All right, special teams, last but not least. This is where you got Avery Williams. If you thought Avery Williams was like I was forgotten him, I had not forgotten him. I classify him more as the special teams guy. He's the punt returner, kick returner. Yes, they'll probably use him on offense some, but I think that's just going to be training. Like, he might have more of an offensive role next year, but I think this year it's going to be full concentration on the special team aspects. Obviously, we have the best kicker in the league in Younghoe Koo, so no real shock there. And as soon as they signed Bradley Pinion from the Bucks, you pretty much knew the punt game was locked up because they he's a professional punter. You know what I'm saying? Not too worried about Seth Vernon there. Liam McCullum comes in as your long snapper, which No controversy there. Still weird again why they got rid of Josh Harris, but whatever. Long snapper, not a huge ordeal there. So that's it, man. That's what I got. That's my 53. Put your comments down below if you think that I obviously screwed something up, or there's somebody else that you'd rather see, or tell me how good of a job I did, right? But as always, y'all can catch me on Twitter. I'm at Grimm1128, GRIMM1128. You can catch Toby D at TobyD1991. Our Patreons and the links down below. Same thing with, the merchandise if you want it. Or, man, just give us a like, give us a thumbs up, give us a share. Tell your Falcons buddy about us. Those are the kind of things that really help us, Anyway, as always, y'all keep an eye on the channel. We'll be back live on Tuesday with a report on, like live talking the report of the preseason game. Yeah, that's happening on Monday. As always, Falcons fans, rise up.